This is the Man Up Podcast, a doctor's guide to men's health. Each week on our podcast, we interview the top specialists of the field on various topics of men's health. You have questions that you are too afraid to ask, we have the answers. This week, our episode is titled Date Training, Dating Tips and Tricks with dating coach Blaine Anderson. I'm Dr. Kevin Chun. I'm joined as always with my co-host, Dr. Justin Dubin. Justin, at the time of this posting, you're going to be in Africa.
That's correct. I will be in Africa when this posts. I will probably be finishing up my South Africa leg of the trip. I'm going to Africa for 3 weeks. South Africa, going to do some safari, some vineyards, some whale watching. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
And we're going to go some hiking. Kenya, going to do a little Diani Beach, do a little more safari. Then we're going to Uganda. We're going to do some gorilla tracking and just go look at.
You're gonna see so many animals, man. It's crazy. It's gonna be nuts.
You've done it.
I've been to South Africa. I went to one of the safaris there, but definitely nothing like Uganda. Like seeing like really like true nature. Like you're in the thick of things, you know. So that's gonna be awesome.
Listen, 3 weeks, if not now, then never, right? I mean, listen, I'm done with fellowship. You're done with fellowship. I'm starting at Memorial Healthcare Systems in September in South Florida. So I'm here and I'm in Boca right now. I got to get myself a spot, but I'll worry about that when I come back from vacation. And you're going to LA. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, unfortunately our timing just kind of slipped, right when you get back to South Florida. I'm out of South Florida. But I'll be in the fall. I'll be in Los Angeles, serving all men's health, all male infertility, all sexual medicine needs. So, but it's a nice transition. It's a nice transition time for us, though. It's been a long, medical journey is a long road. But I think what Justin and I do every day brings us so much satisfaction. So,
it does. You also are going on vacation though, but not at the same time as me. A little later.
I'll be taking a little break. After this long journey, but we'll be going to southern Italy, checking out some Puglia, the beaches down there, and then kind of like we'll go up into Switzerland for a little bit. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to it.
Here's the question: over under 1 gelato a day in Italy. Because I think every time I was in Italy, every day, at least 2 gelato.
I think I'm going to go over on that,
That's the right way to do it. That's the right way to do it.
But we got a great episode, right? We got a great episode.
Yes, we do. We're really excited about this one. We have a specialist. We have Blaine Anderson. She is a dating coach for men. She's really had a lot of success online, both on TikTok, Instagram. You may have seen her. That's where we came across her. She gave some really good advice on obviously a lot of dating, but she talks a lot about confidence, marketing yourself, and, being kind of your own best advocate. And I think that there is some people may be like, why are you having a dating coach on a Men's Health podcast? Because guess what? There's a lot that we could learn, and we did learn from her. Right, Kev?
You're absolutely correct. Look, communication is at the core of, fundamentals of dating, and, for us, we're here, we're trying to communicate information to your listeners. We're trying to get out information on all things men's health. But look, besides the communication, Justin, what are some things guys want to know about? Dude, it's, how to successfully date, right?
Yeah, listen, it's all different levels, right? Like whether you're single, you're married, you're in a relationship, your relationship's on the rocks, you're in a new relationship. There's a lot that guys at every level of their relationship can take away from the conversation that we had with her, because I think a lot of what we talked about applies to everyone. Obviously, we do talk about some of the dating app stuff. We do talk about the dating mentality of these things, which is important. And it is something that, I think a lot of guys can mentally feel like they're in a rut and feel like these are problems. And for many guys, this is the main problem, finding a relationship and building that confidence to do so, or meeting someone. So I think that this, is an important aspect of manning up and leveling up and being the best version of yourself. So I thought it was great, and she is awesome, and gives us some really good advice. So having said that, let's get into it, right, Kev?
Sounds good. Let's jump into our conversation.
Let's do it. All right. So we are so excited to have Blaine Anderson here. She's our dating coach for men, as we talked about in our introduction. So thank you so much for coming on, Blaine. We really appreciate it. So excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here as well.
Yeah, I think, and we were talking before, I think that having you on is going to help out a lot of guys out there that really don't know what the hell we're doing. You know, even in 10 years dating, 99%, we really don't know what the hell we're doing. And I think go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, well, I'm happy to help. I love what you guys are about and bringing awareness to all things improving men's life, helping them get more knowledge. And that's really what I do too, just in a very narrow focus of dating.
Exactly. And that's why we want to bring in the professionals and the specialists to talk about these things. So first question really I have is, what got you into this and how did you find this niche? It's a very interesting niche.
Yeah. So it started out organically, 10 plus years ago when I was in college. I was in a sorority and a lot of my guy friends would approach me and ask me for advice on my sorority sisters. So is this one single? How should I approach her? If I come to the formal, what does that mean? And I always liked sort of giving that inside scoop and advice. And then after college, I moved to New York City. And that was right kind of when dating apps were becoming something that wasn't quite so taboo. It was, everyone had it started to be like everyone had a dating app. It wasn't weird to meet up with strangers from the internet. Yeah. But what I realized was my guy friends in particular, well, guys in general had terrible dating apps. So their profiles did not showcase who they were. And I was like, you are an amazing guy. I know you personally and you're awesome, but your profile makes you not look awesome. It doesn't highlight your best qualities. So I started helping friends just take pictures, tell them what pictures looked good, give them tips on how to get from the match to the date. And that just sort of snowballed at first slowly of like, oh, would you help this other friend or help this colleague that I know? And then over the years started doing coaching one-on-one on the side. And then actually,
first off, you're a good friend, by the way. You're just a really good friend. Sorry.
I know. Well, then I started to, charge for it. So I don't know how good of a friend. But and then when the pandemic hit, actually, I had been thinking about for a while. Oh, okay, how can I take this to the next level? How can I help more men? And I'd been thinking about starting a master class. So essentially, a course where I could help more men at a lower price point, get these same results that I'd been seeing in one-on-one clients. And I worked in the luxury travel sector pre-pandemic. So when the pandemic hit and essentially that business went to zero, I also worked for myself then. I was like, you know what? This is a really good time to finally put the time and effort into this course I've been thinking about making. So that was about 2 years ago. Started my course and now that's what I do full time.
You're absolutely crushing it. Absolutely.
The content that you have out on TikTok, Instagram, it's fabulous. You're such a great communicator of information and offer great insight, great insight.
For sure.
So why don't I'll start off with a question that, everyone hears all the time. We hear it all the time. Can a guy be too nice? Is that a turnoff for women? And if so, how can guys fix it?
Yeah, the answer is definitely, in short, the answer is yes. But if you're a nice guy, you're definitely not doomed in your dating life. Definitely not. But it is about learning how to communicate boundaries and also putting yourself first. So if you're letting people, women included, walk all over you and you're sacrificing your own time or your own health or you personally for someone that you barely know, which is something that nice guys will often do. They feel like they need to bend over backwards and help everyone around them, sometimes at the expense of helping themselves. That's not attractive to women. Women want a guy who takes care of themselves, who stands up for himself, who is confident asking for what he wants. And so it's not that women inherently don't like nice guys, sometimes nice guys do things that ultimately make them not attractive to women.
Now, I feel like that also changes with age, right? Like, I feel like there is like a 20, like when you're like 18 and dating versus your 30s, I feel like that kind of changes the dynamic a little bit. I feel like 100% what you're saying rings true throughout that spectrum, but I think there is a level of that. Does that make sense?
I think that's also true. I would agree with that. I think as women mature, they become more open to not just nice guys, but more things broadly, what they want in a long-term relationship when you're 32 is probably not the same as what it was when you were 22. And those same qualities of it, being nice become more appealing when you're thinking, oh, this is the person I'm going to have children with. But a lot of, I think what I said still applies. You
Absolutely.
Still want somebody who takes care of themselves, who doesn't, bend over backwards for someone they barely know.
For sure. And now one of the biggest problems that you say most men have is that causes them to really struggle with dating is communication. And both, Kevin and I know as men's health doctors, one of the reasons why we started this podcast is because guys don't communicate. They don't talk about how they feel. They don't talk about if they have any issues or if they have any problems. So we see that on the doctor's side. You see it on the dating side. How can we as men become better communicators for dating at least?
Yeah, it takes practice. It takes practice communicating about things you might not be comfortable with. I talk about that a lot. There's a lot of things that are going to happen in your life that may not be something, and you guys know as doctors, that it might not be something you want to communicate about, but it is something that's relevant to your health or to your personal life or to your dating life that you're going to need to learn how to communicate about. And that takes practice. So, oftentimes I'll tell men who I work with, if they have something uncomfortable that they really should disclose to a woman, practice how you would say that. Essentially write a talk track for yourself on any number of topics that you're going to need to communicate about. That doesn't have to just be awkward topics. It can be things that regularly come up on dates. Your past, your profession, what you want in the future, what you do on a day-to-day basis. Get comfortable communicating about those things, just in your own head, maybe with people you're more comfortable with, and that will help you get comfortable communicating more openly with people you're not as comfortable with, like dates.
It's a good point.
I like that a lot. It's just like practice. It's not. It's so many people think that it's just it's got to be natural. If you don't have it, you're done for. But if you practice this, with these little tip sheets or, repetitive things, you're going to be able to get a little bit more natural at it. And,
exactly.
And I also think it's like,
in the mirror.
Exactly. And it's not only what you say, but it's how you say it. And we have seen that when guys talk to us about things in the bedroom, they communicate things in a poor way. And we know we've done the research where poor communication, at least in the bedroom, can translate to a relationship issue. It can translate to lesser, sexual satisfaction amongst both partners. So how you say things is also really important. And I think we also struggle with that to a big degree.
I would agree with that. That goes in, I think, men, I'm not the doctor or the scientist, but from what I have seen and understood on that side of things, men are inherently worse communicators. They're worse at identifying feelings in other people, whether that's facial expressions, body language, and that also means they're not always aware of what they're putting out there. So like you said, only a very small part of communicating is actually the words that you're saying. So much more of it is how you say it, your tone, your inflection, your posture. Are you making eye contact? And I think men aren't always good at realizing how all of those things work together to send a message to the woman they're communicating with.
I think that kind of ties into our next question, all about presentation, right? And I know you kind of touched a little bit on it before about the profiles on certain apps. So, on your website, you mentioned that dating today is a marketing game and that guys really don't know how to market themselves properly. Can you elaborate a little bit on this?
Yeah, so I think that actually applies to in-person and online, but in an online capacity, it's even more obvious. Women are making, and men, everyone online is making a split-second decision based on your profile. They are making wild assumptions based on very little information. So every single bit of information that you put on your profile, especially your first photo and that first, bio or prompt they're going to see, is going to make or break whether you get the second chance of them looking further at your profile or you get to message each other. So it's all about how you present yourself. And just because, if you don't, it's what I mentioned before when I was helping my guy friends early on, if you don't present yourself in a way that is attractive to women in that first second, then you're not going to get the chance to go any further. So you really need to understand how to leverage what you've got quickly when it comes to online dating.
What about in person too? Because you said that's just as important.
Yeah, I think it's marketing yourself in person is as important, especially when you're on dates, when you are, talking about your future and talking about your values and what's important to you. That is absolutely important. In-person interactions, when you're approaching a woman, that comes back to communicating more than I think marketing yourself in that first 10 seconds. Are you standing up straight? What's your body language? What's your facial expressions? You're not going to strike a pose when you walk up to her or, list off where you went to school. And
check out my pics.
Yeah. So I think the marketing seems less, it's a
vibe though. It's a vibe.
Yeah.
It's a vibe. You give off a vibe of some sort.
Totally.
I'm sure. But what about, this is just a follow-up natural question to this is, what about guys who are like, oh yeah, I need to be in person. Like I'm a date guy. Like I can't meet someone out. The apps are the best place for me and they sound reliant on that. That sounds like kind of BS and you're selling yourself short. But I just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
I think you're doing yourself a disservice because even if you're meeting tons of women on apps because you have this like perfectly curated profile or whatever it may be, you're still going to need to learn how to form connections in person, flirt in real life, make her feel, good in your presence. So if you're not able to do those things, if you're getting a ton of first dates, you're not going to be getting second dates. So I actually recently did a podcast with somebody and he said something that I was like, that's exactly how you should be using dating apps. He said, use them like dessert. They're not the main focus of the meal, but you can absolutely have it. And it's a good sort of like way to cap things off. And I was like, that's a good point. You need to focus 80% of your efforts at least on in person, but there's nothing wrong with also using online to meet people.
That's great. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that dessert metaphor. It's really resonating with me.
I love dessert too. So
you also like to talk. So you also like to talk about the 5 E's of dating. It's on your website. So what are the 5 E's of dating?
Yeah. So that's really how I decided to present my master class. It's a ton of information, but you need to break it down into, digestible pieces. And there's 5, and what I really realized was there's 5 essential parts to being good at dating. And that's empathize, embrace, embody, engage, and execute. So I can go into a little bit more about what each of those means.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So embody is empathizing is really about understanding what women want. Because if you don't understand what women want, there's absolutely no way you can give it to them. Embracing is about understanding how you personally are going to give women the things that they want. So what about you is going to pull women in? You need to identify those things so that you can market them. Empathize, embrace, embody. Embody is really putting lessons 1 and 2 together to get in front of the right women for you. So where are you going to meet women, whether that's online or offline? How do you leverage those places? How do the different places that you can meet women affect how you approach them? Because you're not going to approach a woman at a bar the same way you would at the gym, for example. Those are very different places. Engage, intuitive, how you're engaging with women, whether that's, in a first text message or on a 40th date, and then executing. So that is executing in person, going on great dates, follow up, and forming relationships.
I feel like most guys do about 2 or 3 of those at a time, maybe.
Or like a tiny bit of each, but don't fully understand it.
Yeah, no, that's a good breakdown. And I think it's a really simple, easy way to remember that. And you can kind of hone in on your strengths based off of those E's. So that's really cool.
And I think it's important also because they all play together. So if you aren't appropriately approaching women and understanding, where to engage them and how, then you're not going to get to the executing step. And likewise, you might be really good at approaching women, but you don't understand the good places for you to be doing that. So they all really all of those things I think work together. And you can't always have, it's hard to be successful at one without understanding the others.
That's a great point. So I guess this kind of is a natural segue to the next thing. We talked a little bit about the apps. We talked a little bit about being in person. Now, obviously the apps, you described it as the dessert, which I really loved. And are the apps good? Are they bad at this point? Are they somewhere between? Is it better to stay away from them in certain scenarios? And should we really be going now, especially since COVID's over? People want to meet in person, I think, at least. So where are we in the state of apps and actually them being good or helpful?
Yeah. I think they're a necessary evil. So, and I wouldn't say if someone, I don't like apps, I'm not into technology, they don't make me feel good, don't do them. If you hate it, it's not something you have to be doing to have a fulfilling dating life. But I think it's good to know how to use them well, to have a good profile, because the thing about meeting women on apps is they're pre-qualified. The woman on the app is single and she wants to be dating, or at least, the most women on there qualify in those things. If you're approaching women out on the street or at a bar or at your fitness class, wherever, you have no idea if this woman is single, if this woman likes men, if this woman is open to dating, if she just got out of a breakup. There are a lot of unknowns, and that absolutely doesn't mean don't do it, but don't sacrifice this essentially gold mine of pre-qualified people that you can look at. You can use it to your advantage.
I love that. It's kind of like, it's a filter. You filter, single people, boom, and you've got like the list.
And nobody loves online dating, but I personally know so many couples, married couples.
Same, for sure. Sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, listen, it's popular for a reason. It's easy to do. It's accessible for everyone. And there's so many out there that you can find whatever kind of thing you're into. So, I mean, it's great. So yeah, I mean, listen, I haven't been on them for a little bit, but they are a necessary thing.
You should take a little break, Justin.
I took like a 6-month break recently. I haven't been on them, so it's good.
Was your break just because you didn't feel like
I just wasn't? Working, I just was like, like I'm moving. I just kind of just want to enjoy my time in Chicago before I leave. Enjoy the people. Something happens, something happens.
I support that.
But I just felt like going out and going on dates when I could be hanging out with people who I'm not going to be seeing for a lot of times left. I was like, I'd rather just kind of explore with my friends. So that's where I was at.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's the right mindset. It's like, if it's working for you and it sounds appealing, do it. If it's not feeling like the right time, don't. And that's okay too. And consider the seasons. Like you mentioned, it's summer. The pandemic is, I don't know, wrapping up.
I got COVID last week.
Yeah, I'm like, is it not? But women want to meet people in person right now. So now is a good time to put your app down. Don't rely on that heavily. Get out, go to the park, go to bars, go to rooftops. Women are out there and they want to meet people.
So before we move on from apps, let's just hone back in on a couple things. Me and Justin talk about it. A lot of guys always want to, like, they may feel like they're missing out if they're not on the app. So is there, any number out there of like what percentage of single people are on the apps? Are there any specific
I don't
apps?
know that. I don't know any. I don't have a specific number of what percentage of single people use apps. I bet it's high. If I had to guess, I don't know, 80, 70?
I would guess that high. I would think so too. I would think it's pretty damn high.
You don't think so, Kevin, or you do? Oh.
No, I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I probably it's like really high, at least like have downloaded it, tried it, just to venture, just to see what's,
And I think a problem is people download it, try it. They don't know what makes a good profile, especially men. And then they're like, oh, it can't work for me. It doesn't work. And then they're miserable with it. And the reality is it's not necessarily intuitive what your app needs to look like. And from what I have seen, men just do not understand what makes a good photo of them. So like if you're
fish is not good. A fish is not a good picture. Like fish on a boat.
I don't have a problem with a fish if you like to fish and that you're okay being like the butt of an internet joke as long as you're aware of that. But I do think, so many guys give up on it. They're like, oh, it's not going to work for me. And I'm like, actually, your profile is just really bad. For online dating to work as a man, you have to have an exceptional profile. Not an okay profile, not a good profile, a great profile, or do not expect to get matches.
And then I just as a follow-up to that, are there specific apps you recommend for specific people? Like if I want to date, if I want to hook up, or there's just a better dating app? Like, are there certain ones that, like, I know they go in waves. Like obviously it was Tinder, and then it was Bumble, and it feels like Hinge is coming back now. And then there's other things like Raya and Vox Club and all these other ones. Unfortunately, I clearly know.
Yeah. So there's literally an app, there's so many specialty apps that cater to, a vegetarian or specific religions. So if you have things that are deal breakers for you, like you only want to date someone else who is Jewish, then using an app that narrows the playing field is actually really helpful, because you're going to, cut out a lot of the people who it wouldn't work with anyway. More generally, my sort of go-to recommendations are Hinge and usually Bumble. I think they have an appropriate level of intent. Like, you can't just like throw up one photo like you can on Tinder. But there's people looking for a little bit of everything, in my experience, on those apps. So I think those are good go-tos, but it's also super like city and region appropriate. You can't just try one app and, like women in my area, like, aren't using it or don't like me, whatever you tell yourself. Like, trial and error a little bit. You need to see what people in your area are using, what women are gravitating towards, because it's not always the same every place.
That's great.
So, yeah, I'm thinking about this because you mentioned choosing the right photo. I think guys, like, probably in our perspective, we're like, this is a great photo of me.
Yeah, of course.
It's probably terrible, because we're asking our other guy friends, like, hey, what do you think of this? They're just like, yeah, go with that one. That looks fine, So first off, are there any tips for exactly what kind of photo we should pick? And other than that, though, are there any other ways to stand out, on these online apps?
So, I mean, I wouldn't say yes. The answer in short is yes. Like, I have a lot of tips on both of those things. And I actually have a free guide on how to upgrade your profile. The number one tip for a photo, I can get a lot more detailed with it, but just the number one tip that a lot of guys get wrong is having a high quality photo that you can clearly see what you look like. Not sunglasses, not hat, looking at the camera, high quality.
I look so good in sunglasses though. Like, so no sunglasses. You have to see your eyes.
I look better pixelated.
Yeah. Can't really see it. Slightly blurry, 50 feet away. Yeah. Don't we all?
All right. So no sunglasses, high quality photo, probably just you too, right? Not like other people.
Definitely for your first photo. Yeah.
It is kind of weird though, just as a commentary on that, because like, I feel like before dating apps, I never took a picture by myself. Like, I would always take pictures with my friends, but now I'm like, oh shit, I probably should just take one by myself wherever I'm going. I don't know if anyone else has noticed that.
Social media too.
Yeah, social media too. So it's like, that kind of changed the dynamic. I always wanted to take pictures with people, and now you're like, I just got to take a picture by myself. Sorry.
Yeah, it's like, you don't mind? Can you get out of the frame?
Yeah, just like, it's like, oh, we're all here. It's like, you just got to get the hell out of here. Sorry. It's kind of fucked up.
I feel like we should have done a live profile review if you have a dating profile. Like,
maybe we'll do that.
Justin.
We might have to. I'm happy to have you come back on and do that. I'm happy to, but I gotta update them myself. It's been a while. I've been off.
Like, I gotta take that sunglass photo off first.
Yeah, I don't know if that's fair. Now you're gonna read my guide and then make the improvements. I want to do the review as is.
I mean, maybe we can do that.
Pull it up, Justin.
I don't have anything downloaded. I'm not gonna do that right now. We can do that another time. I promise. That would be fun. I could go for it.
Okay.
So, I guess you gave us some tips about, getting these women's eye, at least on the apps. We're going to transition to people soon in person, which I think is also very important. But what is like a good conversation initiator in the apps? Because that's probably the most important thing. You have like all of these people that you match with and you're like, hey, how was your weekend? Or like, how was your day?
No.
These are the, no, I know. That. I'm saying that's bad. That's not what you should say.
Anything but that. No, in my opinion, the best openers are going to be something personal to her and her profile. Something that doesn't apply to every other woman on Hinge, and you are clearly just recycling. So look for something in her profile that other guys aren't going to notice. Maybe it's like she's at a destination that you've been to or you want to go to, or she's wearing something unique or eating your favorite food. You don't need to, totally reinvent the wheel and come up with the most unique, hilarious, perfect line every time. Like, because the reality is like she's not going to answer sometimes, and that's just how online dating works. But take 2 minutes to look at her profile and say something interesting.
Makes sense. Thoughtful. Be thoughtful. That's pretty much it.
Yes.
So kind of a segue, away from the apps, but on another social media app, it's Instagram. I think a lot of people use Instagram, but they're also using them for dating now as well. Do you recommend guys try it, have a good profile on it?
Yes, I actually do. I think Instagram can be a really good dating app if you're using it properly. I actually also have a free guide on how to use Instagram as a dating app, so check that out if you're curious. I would say a lot of the same rules apply to having a good dating profile. You need your good pictures, you need to have some good captions, have a bio that's intriguing. But the most important thing that guys get wrong when it comes to Instagram dating is qualify her. Take 5 minutes to look at this woman's profile and see if you, 1, live in the same place or anywhere near each other, 2, have things in common, something that you could connect on, and 3, like, do I have reason to believe she is single? You can literally at least get a basic understanding of at least 2 out of those 3 things, usually fairly quickly. And the thing that I just see guys get wrong time and time again is just blindly shooting their shot without qualifying those things. And then, and that also has an effect on their confidence. They're like, oh, I've messaged 20 women and none of them reply. And it's like, well, did you
that just sounds bad. Yeah, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
I mean, well, then what's the best way, to approach it? Are you just DM? Are you immediately signing into DMs? Are you commenting on a story? Are you liking all their things and then commenting?
Yeah.
Like, what's the best approach? Because obviously it's going to be the same as being thoughtful in your message, not being like you're hot or some dumb shit like that. But like, what's the other aspect of it?
Yeah.
For approaching?
Which sounds obvious, but somehow isn't, is you need to have a public profile. So you can't use Instagram as a dating app or approaching women if you have a private profile, because she's not responding to like the photo of your dog as your profile photo and nothing else. So, and then there are a few, like, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And the reality is, like, your goal is to get her attention, and then she's going to look at your profile, and that's probably going to determine whether or not she replies, assuming she is single. But a really simple way that you mentioned is reply to one of her stories, or reply if she has just posted a photo. You can, rather than, you don't need to comment on it, you can reply to it so it goes into her DMs. Wow, this is incredible. I'm actually, also living in Miami. What restaurant is this? I need to try
notes
that.
Right here, how to do this. Okay.
Yeah. Write that down.
Yeah. This is looking for X. So yeah, again, just being thoughtful and then making sure your profile looks good, because that's what's going to determine really whether or not she replies. And then remembering what I said before about just like qualifying. Does it even make sense to message this woman?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And, it's just about being thoughtful. All of these things, like, I think most dudes who do this stuff, they're like, oh, I'm
fire off a message,
send a message. Sup, like, sup,
hello,
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like,
you're cute.
It's like, that sounds terrible. I don't think anyone's going to respond to that. But all right. So we talked about apps. We talked about Instagram. Let's get into the real world. Let's get into reality. So it's summer. I think people, like you said, want to meet people in person. So other than just going to a bar or a club, like, I'm a 34-year-old man. I don't want to go to a club. I'm exhausted by 11 o'clock. What are some places that you recommend meeting people in real life, in person?
Yeah. Any place that you are already spending time is probably a good place to meet like-minded individuals. So what are your hobbies? What are your interests? What are you doing on the weekends outside of, drinking and going to clubs? Like, hopefully you have things, right. Not you personally, but most people, hopefully have other things going on. So are you really into yoga? Maybe you're doing ceramics course, whatever it may be, leverage the places that you like to spend time. If you really like to read, that might be bookstores or libraries. Because that is where you're going to have more things to talk about because you spend time there and you're interested in it. And you're going to meet people who are also interested and like that place. So as an example, I met my husband at Barry's Boot Camp, which is a group fitness class.
That's a good spot. That's a good spot.
We both loved it. We both went all the time. So then not only was it organic to chat because we'd seen each other there a few times, we had that to talk about. And then we had that to do together even early on, in our dating and relationship.
But I'm playing devil's advocate here. What if it doesn't work out? Can you never go back to that place again?
Well, so
is there a kind of a risk? There you go.
Yeah. So especially if things end badly, that's why at what I call a high stigma environment. So that could be the gym. That could be if you work together. That could be if she's your barista or vice versa. In those types of places where there could be repercussions, like one of you can't go back or someone's not going to have a job.
Yeah.
You need to build more trust. So you need to get to know her more first. You need to make sure both sides are going to be more hesitant, especially, her, if you're the one approaching her, to say yes. So before you ask her out, before you pursue that, get to know her a little bit first. Chat with her on multiple occasions. Make sure you both feel like it is worth it, that you're willing to potentially find a new gym if things don't work out. Because, you feel like there's some potential there.
So we go to a question that, guys, back in college, you see a girl you're interested in and, all the guys get together, like, what do I say? How do I approach this girl? So, if you're out and you see someone you might be interested in, really, what's the best way to initiate conversation, demonstrate value, and really, approach them?
So, I think it's very dependent on where you are because you're going to want to leverage your surroundings to approach her. And then look around, like, what is relevant to talk about? What is she holding? What is she wearing? What is she doing? Those are all opportunities to spark up a conversation. And when all else fails, you can literally walk up to her and say, "Hi, I saw you from across the room and I wanted to come introduce myself. My name's Justin. I just moved to South Beach."
Write that down, Justin. Write that
down. You don't have to overcomplicate things. Or if you've made eye contact, hey, we made eye contact, so I wanted to come say what's up. Like, my name is Blaine. How are you? Single women want to meet awesome single guys. And I think that's an important thing to remember. When guys are getting in their head, when they're feeling, they're talking themselves out. I don't want to out of approaching. I don't want to bother her. I don't want her to, think this or think that. If you are approaching with good intentions and you are being friendly, first of all, if she blows you off, she blows you off. And, that says something about her. And that's probably not somebody you want to be with anyway. And the other part I said is awesome girls want to meet awesome single guys. And, hopefully you think you're an awesome guy. So you'd be doing yourselves both a disservice by not saying hello.
Makes sense to me. So now we're at a point. So whether it's on the apps, on Instagram, or in person, you make a connection, you get some girl's number, you set a date, or you're thinking about setting a date. Where, other than a bar or like a restaurant, like they can get pretty damn boring. Obviously they're good because you can talk, but if you really want to do something different and more exciting, what are some really good date recommendations for a first date, whether it's a second date, just in general? Kevin, he's been married forever. Yeah. He needs a new date spot. Okay. His wife's begging him not to take him to the restaurant anymore.
Well, I think, where you are in the relationship directly affects where that awesome date spot is going to be. Because for your first date, I actually don't recommend an exciting date spot. The point of a first date isn't to excite her or impress her. The point of a first date is to see if there is compatibility and mutual interest. So keep it simple. You know, go get drinks, go get a coffee, take a walk, have an easy meal. Because those types of lightweight things are going to help facilitate determining those things. And they're also, you aren't going to have as many distractions. You know, if you're trying to orchestrate this like out of this world date or something exciting or a show or whatever, you're not going to have the opportunity to see like, okay, like on a very basic level, do we get along?
Gotcha.
Makes sense. But what about once you're established, like Kevin here?
Yeah.
He needs a new date spot.
Okay, yeah, that's even more fun. I love cooking together. I think that's always a really fun date, and I think that's appropriate. You know, basically after the third date, usually, you invite her over. You get to see each other's places, which is obviously that doesn't apply for your wife, but earlier on than that, and like even like when you're married, I think it's really fun. I love that date as like setting the time aside, cooking, doing something together, trying a new dish, opening a bottle of wine, putting on the music, closing the computers, you know, and really being present with each other. Like, I love a cooking date.
Kevin, you cook?
I do cook. Not together with my wife, though.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
Yeah, Justin, you've definitely seen me. Justin, you've seen me cook.
I've cooked more than you have cooked at your house.
No way.
I've grilled.
I was standing right next to you at the grill. I was standing right next to you.
Okay, standing next to you. Whatever.
Sous chef, not quite chef.
All I'm saying is cook Rosa a meal.
All right,
saying.
All right.
You know, cook Rosa a meal. Yeah. Sorry.
Kevin, how long have you been married? Sorry to turn the question on you.
Yeah.
It's been, I think, like 5 years.
Come on. See, this no one knows. No one knows how long they've been married.
Once
like, that's the hardest question we ask.
I think it's been around 5 years. It's been a while.
Okay.
Oh, jeez. Dude, it's longer than 5 years. We've done residency together. You got married the year before residency started.
7 years.
It's been 7 years.
7 years.
I should not know that, dude.
Justin knows more about my life than I know about myself, dude.
Yeah, he's telling you don't cook and how long you've been married.
Justin seems like he got some tips.
This is what happens when you co-host a podcast and you see each other every day for pretty much 5 years straight. Yeah. So that's what happens.
Amazing.
You know? So, you know, once you have a date, we have a location, and part of that is the conversation. And you say that's important, at least for a first date, second date, third date. One thing that we suck at, we talked about communicating our interest, but now about communicating and just being interesting. Mm-hmm. How do we do a good job of becoming a better conversationalist on these dates? Mm-hmm. Any tips?
So a really kind of simple but underrated tip for having better conversations is what I like to call pull the conversational thread. So a lot of mistake guys make, especially early on, is they're just jumping from question to question to question. They aren't even necessarily listening and exhausting that one topic. So it's like, oh, where are you from? Oh, where'd you go to school? What did you study? What did you do after school? You know, they're essentially going through a list.
It's a checklist.
Yeah. And it's, you know, that happens when you're nervous, but rather than just running down the list, stay on one topic and get deeper in that topic, because that's also going to help you uncover more of each other's values and create more of a connection than just surface level. Oh, we both went to college, or we both studied this. It's like, okay, well, what did you like about that? What made you want to study that? That's going to help you peel back the layers of the onion to get to the meat of, you know, what makes somebody tick and whether or not you're going to have things in common more down the road with this person.
So it's okay to start with those general conversations, or do you want to start with a more interesting starter or something in general? It's like, oh, so you're from here. Like, I don't know. Is that still okay to start with?
Yeah, like I think you're going to, especially early on, you're going to cover those bases no matter what. But, and, you know, you don't need to, it might be kind of weird if you sit down on your date and it's like, so tell me, you know, something really deep, or like, so tell me about your grandmother. It's like, what? Like, why are you asking that? But the point is to just get how can you like take one question and then unpack more from it? And that can lead to other questions of more of interesting topics rather than just another generic question. You don't know where it's going to lead. It doesn't have to stay on that exact topic, but it usually leads to another conversational thread that is going to help you discover more about each other.
Yeah, because I think the thing that I've experienced at least is like you go on a date and it feels like I'm at a job interview and I'm looking around and I'm like, am I getting hired for a position here? So trying to stay away from that.
Yeah.
But I do that. No, I mean, like, I'm sure we're all guilty of that. That's just.
It happens. I think it happens when people are nervous, especially.
So, you know, now that, you know, a lot of times guys chat about it afterwards. You know, you want to know if the girl's into you. You really want to know. So in person or via text, you know, what are some ways that guys can tell if a girl's into them? I think it's a going question, right, Justin? Guys always want to know.
I don't know. I need to know this. Yeah, I don't think anyone does.
There's, you know, there's the things you can pick up on by looking at her or interacting with her in person. So is she asking you questions back? Is she facing you? Is she inserting any sort of physical touch? Does she seem comfortable if you're touching her arm or her leg or her hand, you know, depending on the situation? Those are the sort of obvious signs, but there are also signs that I think people don't pay attention to. So if you're on a date, you know, make the physical connection. Pay attention. Is she actually holding my eye contact? Is she smiling when I am holding eye contact and smiling back? If you can't answer those questions at the end of the date, then you weren't paying close enough attention. And if you're paying close enough attention, you're going to, not always, you know, you're not always going to be able to tell, but if you know the things to look for, you probably aren't going to leave the date completely dumbfounded as to whether or not she was into it. Also, if you're not sure, ask her. Like, I think that's something that's so underrated. Like, hey, I had a great time and I really enjoyed chatting about XYZ with you. I'd like to see you again. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, but I feel like people are not confrontational. I don't believe that they're gonna always say that. No one's gonna say I'm good. Like I would say like 10% of the time. I don't believe that at all.
But pay attention to how she answers. If it's like, oh yeah, maybe, you know, my next couple weeks are really busy, but like I'll text you. Like that's not a very like strong signal that you're going to see her again. And if she's like, I really did too. Like I'm, you know, I loved like hearing about that as well or talking about this. And like, I'm free next weekend. Like if you would just communicate more, I think you will be surprised that people will communicate back to you. And yeah, you're right. Not everybody is going to say, you know, I didn't really feel the romantic connection, but at least you're giving her the opportunity to. And I think especially as we get older and as there's more education around like proper dating, like people talk about how ghosting is shitty now. Like I think 10 years ago that wasn't even talked about. People are more inclined to be honest with you.
Are you okay with ghosting or are you not okay with ghosting?
Definitely not.
So don't ghost.
Don't ghost.
So never ghost.
Justin, you ghost?
So you would give, I'm no comment. I'm just saying, I feel like, well, she brought up the ghosting. I'm intrigued. It is an easy way to end something. You just never respond.
Of course, but it's
it's very clear that, so then what do you say? If someone's interested, someone's not interested in pursuing someone.
Well, I do think like after a first date, sometimes neither party is interested, and like that's pretty clear. You don't need to make like a declaration, like by the way, I don't want to go out with you again in case you do. Like that's not necessary. Sometimes things just don't progress further, and
they just end, and everyone knows.
And that's
everyone
okay.
understands.
But if someone is texting you, asking you out again, asking you to make plans, and you are not interested, then it's something as simple as, hey, like I appreciate you taking the time to meet me, but I didn't really feel a romantic connection. Like, best of luck finding what you're looking for, or like, good luck, or something so lightweight and simple that just lets them not wonder.
Makes sense to me. I mean,
close the loop. Just close the loop, you know?
Yeah, just close the loop. You can like, you know, draft something along those lines that you're comfortable with, have it in your notes, and you don't even have to reinvent the wheel every time. Just send it off and close the loop.
All right. I like that.
Because wouldn't you want somebody to tell you?
Yeah,
you don't want to be sitting there like thinking.
But you don't want to ask why. Right, but you don't want to ask why. I think asking why is bad.
No, I don't think I mean, I just don't think you probably get an honest answer. Like,
I'm not saying I've never done that. I've never done that. No, you're asking for problems if you do that. Would you mind
filling out this feedback survey?
Some girl has actually asked me, like, to
sent
review.
You a survey monkey afterwards?
Like give me a review of what I did. No, but she was like, I here are some questions of how I have done better here. I'm like, I'm good. But
you didn't answer it?
I know I said just good luck. Sorry.
Wait, I'm so curious. What were the questions?
I don't remember. It was like 2.5, 3 years ago. Okay. But I remember it was interesting. It was a very interesting thing. I guess they were very self-aware of, trying to improve themselves, but
trying to get feedback, I guess.
Yeah, trying to get feedback. But all right. So in talking about things that are kind of like ending relationships or turnoffs, like what are like the 2 or 3 things that guys on a date, if they do, it's kind of it ends it for it. Like what are the worst things that you hear guys do on a consistent basis that completely turns girls off from even seeing them any further?
Okay, well, 2 things come to mind. I mean, there's so many of the obvious ones, like you're rude or, you're not self-aware, you're not asking questions, you're talking about yourself. Yeah, those are like a given for most people. One of the number one things I see the mistake the men make is emotional overinvestment. So they're getting too into a woman too quickly before they really even know her or have any reason to be into her. She senses this. This signals to her that he doesn't have options, or, at least that's what she tells her. That's what she thinks in her head. Yeah. And she doesn't want anything to do with him. So that emotional overinvestment is definitely a sneaky one that a lot of people don't even realize they're doing, but is a turnoff for most women. And then the other thing that I see a lot of that isn't like, ew, no, I won't go out with him, is just the lack of building chemistry. So it's like, oh yeah, that's the bucket a lot of my clients fall into. They do the over investment as well, but also just they don't know how to build that romantic chemistry. And especially in the world of online dating where women feel like they have a ton of options and they can just go on to the next one. If you don't create that chemistry on the first date or early on, you're going to be deemed like friend zone. I just don't see a romantic connection. So knowing how to create that chemistry is really valuable.
So friend zone, you mentioned friend zone. Mm-hmm. Any way out of it for a guy, or once you're in, you're stuck there?
There are ways out of it. I'd say it's not beneficial to fixate on like this one girl who's made it clear she wants to be friends with you. Like you're probably solidly there, but especially if you haven't expressed your romantic interest yet and you are friends with her, you can absolutely get out of that by being direct and confident and communicating what you want. Because that's the opposite. Like I said, being a nice guy is about not asking for what you want, bending over backwards for people you don't know. Communicating about what you want is on the opposite side, is hot. Like that's attractive, to be confident, not scared to ask for what you want. So you can get out of the friend zone, especially if you haven't made your feelings clear before. And then just to kind of tie that up, like if you have made your feelings clear and she says, no, I only want to be friends with you, either be friends with her or move on and don't be friends with her. Don't keep pressuring someone who's made their feelings clear.
Yeah, you're just not helping yourself. You're not helping them. It's just weird.
Well, that just
you see all these things on the internet that's really funny. It's like a friend date and it's like hashtag I'm still single. It's like I've seen it's like on like Reddit and stuff. Like guy takes a girl out, like amazing dinner, and she's like, thank you for being such a good friend. Like, oh, so cringe. But I think that was a great one.
I would put money on that guy probably did not communicate that he wanted to be more than friends. He's just hoping if he does the boyfriend things, then all of a sudden she's going to start miraculously seeing him as more than a friend. But why would she? Have you communicated that you want more than that?
Yeah.
Usually the answer is no.
Yeah, but you can't be letting someone take you out on all these dates and stuff. That's kind of weird too. But you're right. You're 100% right. You're right.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that was a great way of wrapping it up. You brought everything full circle from the nice guy to getting into the friend zone, trying to get out if you can or if you should. But this was really awesome having you on, Blaine. I think we learned a lot, and we could honestly talk about this stuff forever.
Yeah.
I'm taking notes. I got some notes in my head. Yeah.
Dating is such I don't know, it's like a fascinating game. I feel like I've been out of it for such a while, and I have to live like vicariously through Justin, hearing and seeing all, but a lot of it's all in the presentation, right? And just how you are and, maintaining conversations and such. So guys should listen up and take notes.
Yeah, there's nuance to it. It's not something that comes naturally to most people. It's not something that is taught in school, although I could make a case for why it should be. So a lot of people need the extra support and, the extra tips of how to get them where they want to be quicker. And that's really what I like to do and where I come into the picture with helping guys kind of upgrade their dating lives.
For sure. And I think we should definitely have you on again at some point, and maybe I'll let you go through my app or whatever, my profile. Maybe I'll have a girlfriend by then. Who knows? Kevin's like, nah, that's probably not gonna. But Blaine, where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Dating by Blaine, datingbyblaine.com. And if you are interested in learning more about my masterclass, then, get in touch and I'd be happy to share. I get deeper on all of the topics we discussed today and really get into the specifics of how to execute on each of them.
This was awesome. Blaine, you're awesome. This was really fun.
Thank you so much.
Kevin,
thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. So as always, guys, thank you for listening to our listeners. Download, subscribe. You can listen to our podcast on any podcasting platform, iTunes, Spotify, anywhere else. You can check us out on YouTube as well. This video is going to go on YouTube on our Man Up podcast page. Please subscribe there, comment, share. Kevin, what's our website?
It's www.themanuppod.com.
That's right. So you can get all of our information on our website. You can also follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter at The Man Up Pod. So for Blaine and Kevin, thanks as always for listening. Until next time, have a good one.
Bye.